Pimpleton and Pimpleton were sitting in their cosy cave, as they often do, sorting their herbs before drying them. And suddenly again there came a rumble and a crash, and then their laughter left in a flash. There came a chuckle and a plop, an explosion and a loud rumbling, and now very high, shrill tones, together with horrible, horrible, deep moans and groans. "Help, help!" from a high piercing voice. "She's got to go, she's black. For us she's a real no-go. We don't want her here with us. She's black, she's got to go. Something has to happen." Pimpleton says, "That sounds very gruesome if someone needs help." It can't be very far away. We understood every word, perhaps some nearby underground place. The North Sea is very close to our cave. Seems like that's where the roar is coming from. Immediately, Pimpleton follows the pixie. Together they take a look at the disaster. Open from above, the North Sea now lies. Where there used to be a shelf of big rocks, now one can look down to the bottom of the lake. The two can hardly believe their eyes. Boulders stick out of the water, mud, debris and stones. It's a horror. On one side, squeezed against the wall, they recognize Neroli, cornered by 3 toads. This mermaid lives in the water labyrinth, where lakes, rivers and streams run underground. These inhabitants had never seen each other before, for there was no daylight anywhere. She laments, "I have lived here in the lake for over 100 years. What's gotten into those toads? We heard each other in the darkness, and none of us stressed each other. We swam past each other and have always been considerate of each other." The voices sounded quite friendly. "What have I done to the toads? It appears to be true that they hate me and find my skin color disgusting. I can no longer live down here like this. Can you give me a refuge?" So she pleads to the pixies above. Fear and terror can be read in her face. Meanwhile, the assembled crowd of toads murmur, "She's black. She has to go. She has frizzy hair. She will totally pollute our water, and we can no longer use it for our brood." The pixies look speechlessly at each other. How can one be so terribly mean? You toads should be ashamed of yourselves. Neroli, we will take you to our home. Quickly the pixies remove some of their clothes. Wet them, slip into them, and we'll pull you out. Neroli shouts, "I am not allowed to touch the earth. That would lead to a transformation." "You live on the earth, I live in the water. How can that work?" Pimpleton laughs. "You haven't seen our bathtub yet. We will somehow drag you to our cave. There you'll be better off than with those other idiot toads." They pull and tug with all their might, and pretty quickly they manage to bring the mermaid onto the grass and save her from the 3 toads. They carry Neroli a short distance. Luckily, the pixie's home is just around the corner. When they arrived in the home of the pixies, Neroli lay down in the tin bathtub. It was filled with spring water. Immediately the mermaid felt comfortable. "I thank you both for being so kind to me. Now I think I need a rest. I certainly won't be awake for a few weeks. Today's excitement made me tired and weak. You don't have to worry about food for me. I only need fresh water every 7th morning." Once again she yawns and sighs in sorrow, and then sinks into a deep slumber. Then we'll settle in for a permanent guest. Filling the tub won't be that hard. We'll save ourselves the trouble of carrying buckets. We can transport both Neroli and the tub with a handcart. The pixie says and strokes Neroli's cheek. "Have a good rest, sleep deeply and long." Thus, without complaining, once a week, the pixies push the handcart with the bathtub, with Neroli, to the waterfall. Here the trough fills with fresh gush. Just when they start their way back, the dipper bird flies in from above. "Greetings, pixies. Good to see you. Can we walk a while together? I see you have a strange cargo. That's Neroli. What has she done?" Her place is, she belongs in the North Sea and not here on land. Why is she here? This is way too much. Neroli did nothing. She was driven away horribly. You wouldn't have stayed with mean toads either. And then the pixie woman explained everything to the little bird in detail. What had happened in the North Sea. At first he's so outraged he can't see a thing. But then, that is simply unbelievable. To hate someone because of her skin color. I have to take the message to the water carrier, Aquarius. He understands these things. Neroli must quickly return to her lake. The water, the animals, oh dear, oh dear. At the same time, the 3 toads of the North Lake are in great distress. The mucus that normally coats their skin, fulfilling an important task, is gradually becoming cracked and dry. You can see the 3 sadly squatting in the corner. They hardly dare to move. That causes sharp pains. Their skin tears, becomes inflamed. They hardly dare to move. That causes sharp pains. Their skin tears, becomes inflamed. They all suffer terribly. How can this be? What is going on here? Who can help us? Who on earth? Now I know who can advise us. The water carrier Aquarius, who lives in the source of the spring, in the labyrinth, is known to be very, very wise, says one of the toads, moaning softly. Maybe he has some advice for us, and knows what has made us so sick. After 2 more days, with the last of their strength, the toads set out. They drag themselves over grass, damp from the dew and mossy stones. There it's wet. The skin of their backs is full of blood. Truly, the 3 are not well. Exhausted, they reach the place, a round pond fed by a spring. In the deepest blue one could hardly imagine. With luck you might find the water carrier Aquarius, as they say in the cave world. But he only comes out of the water when he feels like it. The toads gather all of their courage and stare desperately into the blue pool. They croak shrilly and pitifully. "Oh, water carrier, don't you hear us? We are beaten, exhausted, at our end, and we put our fate in your hands." A huge whirlpool shoots upward, and its funnel floats the waterman. Trouble darkens his face. Now the toads truly don't dare to tell him their troubles. You don't need to complain at all. The dipper bird was here before you. She told me in horror and shame what you have done to everyone in the North Sea with your hateful racism. To insult the guardian of the lake, degrading her because of the color of her skin. Just by her presence, the lake water is kept free from pollutants. You have driven her away, and since then dangerous germs have been spreading in the North Sea. The payment for that is your skin. Really, that you dare come see me. You have brought this pain on yourselves. What foolishness to expel Neroli. Has it ever occurred to you that when you swim past the mermaid, again everyone here is important, that each one is needed in the water world? It doesn't matter to you how the others are doing. The sticklebacks and breams spoil their spawn. Trout and salmon lose their orientation and won't find their way back to their streams. Dragonflies and crayfish, many other creatures, have already been to me, fearful and worried. Timidly, one of the toads begins to plead. We have made a lot of mistakes and only thought of ourselves first. Please help all of those who live in the North Sea. There must be a way out of this disaster. Most importantly, how can we send a message to Neroli, asking for forgiveness? The North Sea has suffered enough through our evil talk. I want the haunting and spookiness to be over soon. The wise old water carrier looks critically at all the toads. You see the error of your ways, so I would be the last to refuse help here. My dipper bird is a proven messenger. I have often asked her to contact Earthlings on my behalf. The parchment from the skin of the pike, with squid ink, it's real. You ask in your letter of apology for Neroli to leave the Pixie's house, because you know full well by now how important she is for the North Sea. Now it will be sealed. 3 times toad's foot, 1 juicy green kiss from the water carrier, and at the end a big thank you to the pixies. The dipper bird flies to the waterfall over the mountains. Today it's now time again, it's water changing time. The pixie pair pull the mermaid in the wagon over hill and dale. They have almost reached the waterfall as a breeze sweeps over them. I'm bringing a letter from the water carrier. 3 pitiful toads arrived at my place. They admit their mistake and ask Neroli to forgive them. But look at the letter for yourselves. What I can quickly say is that the 3 turncoats have suffered to God's mercy. The water carrier could no longer watch them suffer and let a small miracle happen. 3 buckets of cold water from his blue spring quickly ended their pain. Neroli reads the message to the end, then claps her hand happily. It says here the toads would like to save you the trip and take me to the North Sea right away. They are already on the way and want to borrow the wagon. I have no worries about the toads. I trust the water carrier's judgment. He can see the true nature of the toads. I accept his suggestion and will let the 3 be my carriage horses. So after a long break of a few months, I will finally be back in my beloved home. I thank you 2 pixies very much. Separating from you is really hard, but you 2 certainly agree how nice it is to be home again. Thank you, Dipper Bird. Say that as well to the water carrier Aquarius from me, for his help for the lake and its creatures.